Welcome to the Swan and Dolphin transportation at Disney World. This is kind of like an ultimate guide on how to navigate the area. So for starters, the Swan and Dolphin is part of the Epcot resort area. So it is on the lake where you have Boardwalk, Yacht Club, and Beach Club. Swan Reserve is like across the street, but it's still in that vicinity, and all of these things will still apply to that as well. The one thing that I will say is that Swan and Dolphin does offer their own transportation to get around the parks. However, it's not Disney transportation, so it makes way more sense to just walk next door and go to Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club and take their transportation. There's also a lot available that you can walk to or like take the Skyliner to, because the Skyliner's right there as well. So you really don't need to use the Swan and Dolphin's transportation, and I'll go into detail on here for all of that. So for starters, let's talk about boats. So again, this Epcot resort area, there's what they call friendship boats. They go, and it's not really a circle because they go back and forth. But on one end you have Epcot, the other end you have Hollywood Studios, and in the middle you have Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, Swan and Dolphin. So the boats pick up at all of those places and will take you back and forth between those. So if you're trying to go to Epcot or Hollywood Studios, you can take the boat directly. It's a 30-minute round trip, so if you're whichever one you're going to, it'll probably take you like maybe 15 or 20 minutes. It shouldn't take the whole 30 minutes unless there's any sort of delay for any reason. Here's what the boats look like. They've been painted differently since, but the body of the boat is still the same. The other thing is the Skyliner. So you can walk over to the Skyliner. The entrance is at the Epcot World Showcase entrance. Again, if you don't want to walk over there, you can take the boat. The boat will drop you off. If you have the walkway going into Epcot, boats here, Skyliner's here, you just walk across the pathway. So that's a very short route to do that. For the Skyliner, it will go to Hollywood Studios, Caribbean Beach, Riviera Resort, Art of Animation, and Pop Century. So if you want to get to any of those places, then I would also recommend the Skyliner as an option. That one will go down for like lightning and stuff, so will the boat. So just kind of maybe keep that in mind if you're trying to figure out, what will be the easiest way to get from point A to point B is just, pay attention to the weather, but it's not very often that they go down. Here is what the Skyliner station looks like. So you just enter right here, and then this is the Epcot World Showcase entrance here. The Swan and Dolphin is in walking distance to a ton of things. So you can walk to Epcot in less than 15 minutes. You literally just have to walk past the Yacht and Beach Club, and then that's the only thing between Swan and Dolphin and Epcot. You'll go in at the World Showcase entrance. You can walk to Hollywood Studios. It takes less than 30 minutes, maybe about 20 or 25 depending on your group. You can again walk to Boardwalk, Beach Club, Yacht Club, because they're all in a circle around a little lake that's pretty short. There's also the Fantasia Gardens mini golf course that is across the street. You can also walk over to that as well. And here's you can see Swan and Dolphin here in the background, and then there's these sidewalks, and they all have directions on like where they're all going, so you're not just kind of meandering off into the unknown. They tell you and lead you along, and it's a straight path. Follow the water, because the boats are already going back and forth. So as long as you follow the path that stays on the water, you'll get to your next place easily enough. Taking buses at Disney. So anything that's not kind of the Epcot resort area, you will now have to rely on buses rather than boats and the Skyliner. The Swan and Dolphin does offer their own bus transportation. I still, most of the time, would probably just walk over to Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club and take the Disney bus instead. Disney transportation is not like an exclusive thing for registered hotel guests necessarily. The only time I've ever heard of them checking was New Year's Eve at Disney Springs. Going back to the hotels, they were prioritizing guests that could prove that they were staying at either on property or that specific hotel to get on the bus, so that way they could get people out of there. But the other 99.99% of the time, it's not like an exclusive hotel guest perk. If you're on Disney property, you can take any transportation you want. You don't have to give right to use it. So that's why I don't mind telling people if you're staying at Swan and Dolphin, just use Disney's transportation. Like you're at Disney, use Disney transportation. You don't need to use third-party stuff. One thing to keep in, or a couple things to keep in mind. So the Swan and Dolphin buses run every 20-25 minutes, which is about what Disney does as well. Their buses tend to be about 20 minutes, and they have little boards that will show you when the next one will arrive. During peak times, they'll come more frequently as well for Disney, whereas Swan and Dolphin will be a little more consistent. If you're going to Magic Kingdom, the Swan and Dolphin bus will drop you off at the Transportation and Ticket Center, but the Disney buses will drop you off directly at the Magic Kingdom entrance, and this will save you probably at least 20 minutes of your day, because if you get dropped off at the Transportation and Ticket Center, now you have to take the monorail over to Magic Kingdom or take the ferry over to Magic Kingdom. And if you're going for like a rope dropping or something, the lines are pretty long. You'll have to wait for like a few monorails to get on. And, you know, you'll have to wait 10 or 15 minutes for the ferry and then take the ferry across. So this is one instance where I 1000%, if you're going to Magic Kingdom, take a Disney bus and not the Swan and Dolphin bus. If you're going to Animal Kingdom, whatever, doesn't matter. Epcot, Hollywood Studios, walk there, take the boat, take the Skyliner, doesn't matter. Depends on your own mobility, how much you want to walk and things like that. Disney Springs as well. You can, you know, take the Swan and Dolphin bus or take the Disney bus. That doesn't really matter. The way that I kind of go about it is if I'm walking out to the bus area and there's not one there, there's not one pulling up, then I will just take my chances and go next door to the next hotel and take the bus to where I need to go. This is just a picture of what the inside of the Disney buses are like. They have a few different kinds of layouts, so it's not 100% always like this, but just to give you an idea. Monorails. So there is no direct monorail access to the Swan or Dolphin. It's only in the Magic Kingdom Resort area and then the Epcot entrance. Swan and Dolphin is connected to the World Showcase entrance, which is at the back of Epcot. And there's no way to get from the back to the front without going inside the park. So unless you have theme park admission that you want to use, then I would just it actually doesn't matter here. If you take the Swan and Dolphin bus to Magic Kingdom, it'll drop you off at the Transportation and Ticket Center, and then that's where the monorail is. So you wouldn't necessarily need to go over to a Disney hotel to go to Magic Kingdom. You could do that if you just wanted to get onto or again, if you want to use your theme park tickets, you can walk from the back of Epcot to the front and then hop on the monorail from there. The monorail only goes to Polynesian, Grand Floridian, Contemporary, and Magic Kingdom. So if you're doing like a dining reservation or just want a monorail hop, that's how you will get yourself to the monorail to be able to do that. You can also drive yourself if you're staying at Swan and Dolphin. Swan and Dolphin guests do get free standard theme park parking during their stay, which is a nice little perk that you get. So if you like to drive yourself, you can definitely do that as well. Parking is always free for everybody at the water parks, Disney Springs, and Wide World of Sports. So those are very easily accessible to drive to as well. And I honestly recommend driving to the water parks because the Disney buses don't go directly to the water parks. They have hubs now. So if you want to go to Blizzard Beach, you have to get to Animal Kingdom first and then take a bus to Blizzard Beach. And if you want to go to Typhoon Lagoon, you have to get to Disney Springs first and then take a bus to Typhoon Lagoon. So it's much easier to just drive yourself because it's direct. And it's what else? Rideshare services, you can take those around as well. Uber and Lyft are really what's popular there. Lyft does have a partnership with Disney and they call it the minivan service. So this is, again, it's like your own private shuttle. You do have to pay for it, but this one is a Disney cast member that's driving you, which is significantly safer. They're vetted, trained, just like any other Disney cast member. So if you haven't really used rideshare, minivan is a great introduction to it. Pricing varies depending on where you're trying to go and how high the demand is at the time, but it's a great option. One of the best uses of the minivans is when you're going to Magic Kingdom, because they can also pull up to the very front of Magic Kingdom like the Disney buses do. Those are the only two transportation services that will go right up there. Everything else, if you take Uber or just a regular Lyft, they have to drop you off at the Transportation and Ticket Center. So then you'll still have to take the monorail or the ferry in. So if you're going to splurge on the minivan, do it to get to Magic Kingdom personally. Or if you just need to get from point A to point B at a specific time because you have a reservation, then you can always fall back on having the minivan there to get you there. So how to get around Disney World from the Swan and Dolphin. Now that I've kind of talked about all the different transportation options, here is like very explicitly if you're trying to go from the Swan and Dolphin to this place, here's exactly how I'd do it. So if you want to go to Magic Kingdom, I would take a Disney bus from Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, because they drop off directly at the front. Or if you have theme park admission that you are using that day, you can walk over to Epcot and you can go from the World Showcase entrance, walk to the park entrance, take the monorail over, and then you would hop on. You would transfer monorails or hop on a ferry to Magic Kingdom. Those are a couple different options. If you want to get to Epcot, you can just walk to the World Showcase entrance. It is like 10 minutes. Or you can take the boat if you don't want to walk that far, or if you just, feel like trying it out. Hollywood Studios, again, you can just walk. That one's a little bit farther. It's probably about 20-25 minutes. Or you can take the boat directly there as well. To get to Animal Kingdom, this one really, it doesn't matter. You can take the Swan and Dolphin bus. Again, my method is if it's kind of out there or pulling up, then I'll take it. But if I don't see one coming, then I'll just go to the Disney Resort and take the Disney bus. But there's no particular leverage that one has over the other. It's just what bus is going to show up first. Typhoon Lagoon, I would just drive myself. If you want to take a bus, then you'll need to take the bus to Disney Springs and then transfer to a Disney Typhoon Lagoon bus. Or, start with a Disney bus to begin with, but you'll still need to transfer. Same with Blizzard Beach. I would personally just drive because you would need to take a Swan and Dolphin bus to Animal Kingdom, transfer to a Disney bus to Blizzard Beach, or if you start with a Disney bus, you'll still have to transfer to the Blizzard Beach bus. Disney Springs, this one's a toss-up because there's not really any, it's the same as Animal Kingdom, there's not really any benefit one way or another, it's just which bus is going to be there first at the time that you're coming out. So you could take either the Swan and Dolphin bus or a Disney bus, or drive, because Disney Springs parking is free. They have these ginormous garages. They also have parking lots on the end too, so like uncovered, like flat surface parking as well, that are very straightforward too. So those are some options. How to get to other Disney resort hotels from the Swan and Dolphin. So if you have like a dining reservation, or you're going to some sort of show, or you just want to resort hop and just explore the other ones, here's some of the different ways you can get to the different hotels. So one option, you can walk over to Hollywood Studios and then just catch a bus to whatever resort you want to go to. The reason you can't do this for Epcot is that even though Epcot's closer, the buses are at the front of Epcot and this entrance is at the back of Epcot. So unless you have park admission, you can't get through that way. So that's one way to do it. There are a few things that will be faster than this though, because if you don't do this, the problem is that you can't go from resort to resort on like Disney buses. You have to go to a theme park first and then a resort. So if you didn't just walk to Hollywood Studios, you would have to get transportation to some theme park and then go over. But if you're going to Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, you can just walk or take the boat because they are all around the lake in the same exact spot. You don't have to do anything special to get to those. If you want to go to Caribbean Beach, Riviera, Art of Animation, or Pop Century, you can take the Skyliner over at the World Showcase entrance to Epcot, because the Skyliner goes to all of those resorts, so it'll be pretty direct. Here's what the Skyliner looks like. Other than that, everything else will just be faster. Just get yourself to Hollywood Studios, whether you walk or take a boat, and then from there, hop on any bus you want to whatever resort you're trying to go to. And then really the last thing to say is that I do have a guide on just getting around Disney World in general without renting a car. So like different ways to take Disney's transportation around the resort, if you want to check that out, since this one was very specific to staying at the Swan and Dolphin, since it's a little bit different. It's on Disney property, but it's not a Disney resort, it's a Marriott resort. They still get a lot of Disney perks for being on property. So that's everything I have for that. I do also have this free guide that you can download. It just asks for your name and email so that I have a way to send it to you. But it also gives you like how to get from point A to point B for like every type of scenario, which is easy to have with you while you're planning your trip.